Okay, so 8-year-old, so that's 1 year older than a 7-year-old, like an 8-year-old becomes the youngest person charged with blasphemy. I'm not going to name the place for the moment. An 8-year-old boy is being held in protective police custody in a certain place after becoming the youngest person ever to be charged in that country with blasphemy. The boy's family is in hiding, and many of the community from which he comes in a conservative district of this certain area, and they fled their homes after a Muslim crowd attacked a place of worship after the boy's release on bail last week. So 2 weeks ago, he was released on bail. Troops were deployed to the area to quell any further unrest, like one would think. Potentially, I don't know, troops deployed, mass murderer, paedophile ring. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Troops. Okay, let's continue. So the boy, again, 8 years old, not 9 yet, 8, is accused of intentionally urinating. It's pretty difficult to prove, one would presume, on a carpet in the library of a madrasa, which is an Islamic school, I guess, where religious books were kept. Urinate on a book, but on a carpet in a room where books are kept. So blasphemy charges in this place, and this may give the game away, can carry the death penalty. So the newspaper from which I'm reporting knows the name of the boy and family members, that has chosen, quite rightly, to protect their identities because they live in the land of lunacy. And this, so speaking from an undisclosed location, a member of the boy's family told the news outlet he, i.e. the boy, is not even aware of such blasphemy issues and has been falsely indulged in these matters. He still doesn't understand what his crime was and why he was kept in jail for a week. I'm going to pause myself there and just for anybody who's unaware, not that it's directly related, but in the UK, am I talking in England? Let's go with that because it is different in Scotland actually. But the age of majority, no, that's for her voting. The age of culpability of criminal liability is 11 years old, because we recognise legally that somebody below that age may well have a very good idea that they're doing something wrong, but they cannot necessarily discern the implications of their actions, and therefore be a very case. I mean, we still have means of chastising and penalising, for example, murder carried out by 10-year-olds. We have had such cases, unfortunately. However, overall, we assume that those under the age of 11, i.e. secondary school age in this country, are unable, as I said, to fully appreciate the ramifications of any criminal or even accidental activities, and therefore they cannot be charged as adults. And those would therefore, if they are charged as minors, be far less severe, and the death penalty is not on the cards. It's not on the cards for adults, to be fair. But even when we had capital punishment, children were basically uninvolved. I'm talking about the last couple of centuries, obviously. So meanwhile, back at an undisclosed locations ranch, we have left our shops and work. The entire community is scared, and we fear backlash. You can safely presume, and I will let you know, this is not a Muslim community, obviously. We don't want to return to this area. We don't see any concrete and meaningful action will be taken against the culprits, i.e. the mob, or to safeguard the minorities living here. And you may have heard me speaking previously about blasphemy laws being very biasly used as a tool of persecution against religious minorities. There are other instances of different forms of Sharia being used disproportionately, mainly accusations of blasphemy, I would say, in terms of severity of potential punishment. Like I referenced earlier, that this place has certain sections of its penal code are like mandatory, actually, death sentences, or most certainly it will be heavily considered. And yet there have been cases in this country of people wrongfully convicted, awaiting death, and whilst awaiting complete exoneration, actually, in the case I'm thinking of, having family members murdered after they were found innocent, and members of their legal team and indeed the judiciary violently, and at least in one instance fatally wounded by this ochlocracy, this mob rule, this hysteria, to be fair, over an imaginary god. But let's get back to the story. So blasphemy charges filed against a child have shocked legal experts for this certain republic, who say the move is unprecedented. So this is the first instance, at least in their recent legal history, or ones in which they, their current laws, it's never been done before. No one this young has ever been charged within this country, this republic, this Islamic republic, with blasphemy before, because potentially of the considerations that I just discussed in terms of the British law or English legal system. Blasphemy laws have been disproportionately used in the past against religious minorities in this country, although no blasphemy executions have been carried out. I'm really giving away the location here. In the country since the death penalty was introduced for the crime back in, I do apologise for the noise, back in 1986. Suspects are often attacked and sometimes killed by mobs. That harks back to this mob rule that I was speaking of, or the ochlocracy of this Islamic Republic. So one lawmaker who is head of a council, without giving the game away, says and I will give the link obviously afterwards, the attack on the place of religious worship and blasphemy allegations against the 8-year-old minor boy has really shocked me. More than 100 homes of the targeted community have been emptied due to fear of attack, like a very real possibility, not just an irrational, like Islamophobia, for example, if I wanted to start using made-up words. So, more than 100 homes. So it's not 100 people, that's 100 families. Potentially each family is on average 3 to 4 people, I imagine. So that's 300 to 400 people minimum. Another human rights activist said this: I demand charges against the boy are immediately dropped and urge the government to provide security for the family and those forced to flee, i.e. those internally displaced. He added, attacks on the certain places of worship, he didn't say that, I did, have increased in the last few years. So this is not an isolated, spontaneous incident. We see that Christian places of worship are routinely attacked. If you just go onto any reputable search engine and put in something along the lines of map France churches desecrated, and then go onto the image search, you'll see a map of red dots for attacked churches and desecrated graveyards, for example. That looks like a severe case of rubella. It's just across the board. So, so there's escalating levels of extremism and fanaticism, says this human rights activist, that are fueling these attacks on places of worship other than churches. The recent attacks seem to be a new wave of persecution. Footage has been circulating on social media and appears to show an angry mob attacking and vandalizing the place of worship with iron bars and sticks last week. One spokesman for the district police said this. They're pretty renowned for being utterly useless. I don't know if that's fair. Mostly useless in terms of the persecution of minorities. Not necessarily to my immediate memory, this particular district. However, the country as a whole has a shocking record of ignoring and minimising and outright denying by their Prime Minister that these things go on. So this spokesperson, who's a man, I don't know why they're called a spokesperson, the spokesman, said this: police are hunting the attackers and police teams are conducting raids to arrest the culprits, but there have been, I'm just correcting their English, no arrests made yet. What a shocker. And the Prime Minister of this country, who I've made videos about and is pretty much a retard, I would say, not medically, but societally and interreligiously and theologically and, just utterly outrageous statements in the past, condemned the mob attack on Twitter. What gravitas, I hear you scream. He says he has ordered the provincial police chief to take action against anyone involved, including negligent police officers. I'm presuming, rightly I feel, although I wouldn't be presuming otherwise, that this would be after the 8-year-old child spent 7 days, 7 nights maybe, in police custody. I very much doubt there were any concessions made, bedtime stories, like the love of the child's mother, the little things that children respond well to. Anyway, he promised, big chat here, he promised the government would restore the place of worship. Let's all hold our breath, starting now, as it were. Don't really. So a neighbouring country's external affairs ministry has summoned a diplomat from this, the aforementioned country, to protest the attack and demand the safety of these families living in this Muslim vast majority country. In December of last year, a large and violent mob, the two are so often interlinked, of conservative Muslims demolished a old place of worship in the northwestern province, of this area, which, thank goodness, has got a really long name and I don't have to embarrass myself. According to a report by the US Commission and oft-cited by me on international religious freedoms, this is as of last year, this report, this place of interest or concern has had the highest number of incidents of mob activity, mob violence, and or threats of mob violence as a result of alleged blasphemous acts. And now you see how the Machiavellian, this law is left to stand and be wrongly facilitated by means of utterly embarrassing false accusations. We see instances, and I can recall at least 2 or 3, where, a Muslim potentially has borrowed money, or a work colleague who's pressuring a non-Muslim into Islam or into, borrowing the money. And when it comes time to pay them back, or when it comes time they don't get the girl that they're pursuing romantically, or I say romantically, sexually, they will bring a charge of blasphemy, knowing full well the potential death sentence that carries with it. And I won't say often because it's pitiable, but many times these people are, after 7-8 years in prison, degradation and horrific treatment, are then exonerated or not actually killed. The punishment is not carried out, but the threat of the punishment is very real, and that's enough to, and the fact that they're wrongful accusations and they're wicked and they are deliberate and disingenuous accusations just shows some of the very valid reasons that I hold against any form of blasphemy laws, because I am a free speech absolutist. Even though I know that blasphemy of the Holy Spirit carries a charge and a penalty much graver than just the death of the flesh, I still do not believe that should be legislated against. Spiritual matters are not legal matters, not after the Old Testament anyway. Anywho, so 4 countries account for nearly 80% of all reported incidents of mob activity, according to the report, and mob violence and or threats of mob violence, because that's one category, as a result of alleged often false accusations of blasphemy in countries with criminal blasphemy laws, and that is in a four-year period from 2014 to 18. That's nearly 80% of all mob violence, threats of violence, and mob activity. So it's a surefire way to take all of the attention off of yourself as an accuser, and just rent a mob comes around. You know, I've seen instances and videos, quite frankly, of people being ripped to, like, literally torn to pieces in the streets, of mobs surrounding like small localized police stations and demanding the release, and they are often acquiesced to, these mobs, which is, as anybody knows, if you're dealing with bullies or, you know, gangs, you can't back down, you can't acquiesce, you cannot allow Satan to control the narrative and call the shots. So now I'm at the end of that report. You may be unsurprised to know that that was in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and the 8-year-old, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old. Oh my gosh, I think I've got items of clothing older, to be fair. Yeah, it's a Hindu boy, and a Hindu temple, other than the century-old one, has been attacked, in an entire community, because they are quite small communities, given the massive Muslim majority, have been uprooted, terrorized, put into fear. And this, again, I'm just going to reiterate, because I just 8 years old and accused of intentionally doing a wee, as it were, urinating on a carpet near some books in a madrasa. Like, as if an 8-year-old, like there's no other instance in the, like, of an 8-year-old accidentally wetting themselves, even if it was intentional. To be fair, he didn't, I can't say the word, he didn't do it on a book, he didn't intentionally. Come on, get a grip, Pakistan. Imran Khan, you are some kind of mong. Like, seriously, get a grip on yourself, like running around like some sort of playboy all this time, like sleeping around, drinking, you know, yada yada. And now you want to come across like a, you know, maybe you are now religiously orthodox, but I suspect, call me a cynic, that you are playing a role in order to appeal to conservative Muslim voters and Sharia clerics and imams within your own republic. And I think it's pretty horrific that this precedent has been set. You know, just in the same time frame, I saw Harris Sultan reporting on a woman, I believe, or was it David Wood? I think both of them, on a woman who has been charged maybe under, I think it's section 29C, something, the death sentence one, for receiving a blasphemous text message. And what I would do, what I wouldn't do, but what I would do is just immediately send that same text message, if I could find out what it said, to every member of parliament, email it to Imran Khan, to every member of the legal team, to all of the judiciary. Because if now we see that receiving a text message is potentially punishable by death, like, where does it end? Obviously, it ends with the Son of Man coming in clouds of glory, but you know what I mean. Whew. Okay.